Well, hi friends. Welcome. Today is June 9th, and Wednesday will be our full moon. Um, you know, kind of like full moons, they symbolize clarity in the Lenormand deck, okay? So, but first card out is what Spirit would like to speak with us about this week, okay? First card out is the Stork. The Stork is about change. It's also about progress, and it's also migration feel to it, but also a sense of freedom, okay? The next card out is the Snake. The Snake, that's that it's kind of like wise discernment. It's also maybe revisit. Oh, and then the flowers are in the upper left-hand corner, which that kind of confirms that. The flowers has that renewal feeling, that vibrancy type of a feel to it, but it's also like things are coming into full bloom, and it kind of has a recovery feel, okay? And then we've got the child, and then we've got the key, which the child is something new. The key is the green light, the solution. The garden in the middle, that's our shared spaces. That's networking and socializing, group thinking, that sort of thing, okay? And then we've got the tower. The tower is that official, the official card, but it's also can be a little bit of a tower moment. A tower moment is not necessarily bad, which I've discussed before, but it's kind of like a redirection, which the snake is next to it, so that kind of confirms that. The flowers and the snake, that kind of has that it's like a rejuvenation type of a feel. And then we've got the fish, which is your finance, your abundance, and then we've got the scythe. The scythe is a change. So that's kind of what the tower moment is. It's a change and a redirection, okay? Now we've got the lady, we've got the ring, we've got the book, we've got the tree, the ship, the moon, the stars, the birds, and the bear. The birds and the bear, that would be conversations that are significant, okay? And the moon offers clarity. It's a softer energy. And then the stars are beneath that. The star is, that wish fulfillment. But, with the moon, I kind of have that feeling of, things are coming into alignment, and you know, it kind of has that feeling too of, let the stars be for signs kind of a feel, offer clarity, okay? And then the ring. The ring are your involvements. It's, that ring can be like, relationships, but it can also be offers. Like if you have a business offer, it can have that feel to it, especially with the ship in the middle, which is your success, your things, your ships are coming in, but it's kind of business related, okay? And so is the bear. The bear, yeah, it's a mother nurture feel to it, but it's also that significant. It could be a significant parental figure as well. And then the lady, obviously, would be the female in your life, okay? Let's see what else we have now. Now we have the anchor, the cavalier, which, the cavalier means news is coming in. And then the upper left-hand corner would be the lily, which is your lifestyle. So I feel like things are going to be, changing, because, my first card out was that stork. That stork indicates a little bit of change. And the lilies is your lifestyle. Then there's the dog, and then there's the cavalier, which that's kind of like, people are coming in, friendships, your it could be your family, your friends, your people at work feel, okay? And then we've got the clouds. The clouds, that's that little bit of, thought, but it can be a little bit like, you're trying to figure it out, okay? Which with the moon on Wednesday, that may help offer some clarity, okay? But I do see spiritual protection was in that combination too, with the clover and the cross, okay? And then, which, I kind of feel like, you've got people in the higher ups that are watching your back. The last portrait, the upper left-hand corner, is the mouse or the mice. Those offer us anxieties and a little bit of, nuisances, and, a little bit of fear, or concern, not so much fear. Well, it can be fear, but, a little bit of concern, okay? And then we've got the crossroads, which is, indecision possibly, that's the loss of a decision, because the mice indicate loss. But you're at the crossroads, so you need to make a decision. And sometimes to not decide is to make a decision as well. But sometimes it's best to let things unfold naturally. Don't force things, okay? Because I think that we all kind of have that. We know what we want, and we go after it. But sometimes just surrendering and letting go is also a good option, or at least give it some time, okay? Don't be quick to make a decision. And maybe, say a little prayer about it, meditate on it, maybe ask some friends before you make final decisions, okay? Take all of the, everybody's feelings or situations into account before you make a decision, okay? Because ultimately, sometimes our decisions affect other people, and sometimes we make decisions without thinking about other people, okay? So maybe that garden there kind of symbolizes, we need to kind of all work together, okay? Now the upper left-hand corner, it was those flowers in our final portrait. And the bottom is that key, which we like to see. That's your green light and your solutions. And then the bright upper right is the coffin, which can indicate a period of rest. It could also mean a period of being away. It could be missing someone, those feelings. And the bottom right is the fox. That fox, that's that, sly, clever, trickster type of energy, but it's very intelligent. And it works very well in partnerships, in business, that, coming up with a creative solution, even, because it is kind of a creative card too, especially with the moon. The moon and the fox, that's your, could be actually a psychic because they deal in the spiritual realm, and the moon kind of has that, outer spacey kind of feel to it. So it is kind of a, an esoteric type of a combination. And then the cross is there. So I feel like, it's kind of like let your spirits be your guide kind of a feel. The middle card is the dog. The dog is your friendships, your family, your work partnerships, friendships or relationships. Because the lady and the man are also in that portrait. So I kind of get the feeling that, and then the heart, I feel like, loving relationships coming out of friendships feel to it. And then the bear is that, that significant parental figure, but, it could be a boss too. It could be managerial. I just feel like there might be where kind of like the people that you work closely with become your family. I know that's kind of the case for me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. So, those are the people that you're going to want to spend your time with. Let's see. There's kind of confirmation. Let's see. I do see an aha moment, though. I feel like there's some clarity that's going to be coming through, just the way that the cards are positioned there. Let's see. I do see anxious. It's kind of like an anxious anxiety that causes paralysis. So it could be too that you've got a lot on your plate, and sometimes that makes it difficult to even start a project when you have too much going on. So just try to quiet your mind a little bit. Get out in nature. Go for a hike. Go for a walk. Go. Get to a space where you can really think, rather than there being some outside distractions. Okay. For me, it's my garden. Everyone knows that. But I do love to travel. So traveling is go on an adventure feel to it. Okay. Oh, gosh, I see that snake bite again. That's the scythe and the snake. But it can also be, handling things before they become big problems, kind of like the mouse and the bear, which that's here too. That's kind of why I'm mentioning it. sometimes you have to remove what isn't serving you, but, you also have to handle the small problems before they become big problems. And communication is key. So maybe sit down and have a chat. If something is bothering you, instead of, ruminating or gossiping, which that's those combinations as well. It's better to go directly to the person and speak to them, not hear what others have to say. Because sometimes, if you ever played that game, the telephone, by the time it gets back to the person, it says completely something different. And that's how rumors get started, and the truth isn't always as clear as it would have been had you gone straight to the source. Okay. I do see a break in the clouds, which that's nice to see. So that will be the moon coming out, offering some clarity. I do see a feeling of surrender, though. The cross and that coffin have that feel to it, or being laid to rest, or maybe let bygones be bygones, kind of a feel. Let's see what else. Yeah, the mice and the birds, when those are together, that just creates a lot of tension. Okay. But hopefully, the clarity, as long as there's communication, then you can get to the bottom of things. Okay. Let's see, what else do I see? I do see boundaries. You have to set firm boundaries. Sometimes people feel like they're being taken advantage of if you give too much and they take too much. So I've said before, every relationship, I don't care what kind of relationship, business, friendship, partnerships, they all require an equal amount of give and take. But I also feel that, pretty much every problem can be solved with love, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, all of those qualities. Okay. But without communication, you'll never get to the bottom of it. and the cycle will continue, just like our karmic lessons. If we don't address them, if we don't work on them, they keep repeating generation to generation. Okay. Or they'll create, traumas that never get resolved that come out later in life. Okay. Something that you don't realize might have happened when you were young tends to surface as you get older. Okay. Let's see, what else do I see? Yeah, I feel like things are coming, there's healing here. This combination of the tree, the clover, and the sun, it has that healing aspect to it, and recovery, which, that can take some time. It's not, the next card out is the Tower. It's not something that happens overnight. It does take time. Okay. Let's see what else. Yeah, I just feel like there's news coming in that's going to be a little bit of an aha moment or a surprise. And the fox is there. So, I feel like there might be, a little bit of, that's what kind of makes it surprise feel to it, or a shock. Shock and surprise is what I mean. Let's see what else. I feel like self-care is important too at this time. Rest and self-care. The flowers are there too. But when I see the flowers and that fox, that has that, little bit of false to your face feel to it. So, honesty is always the best policy. Sometimes we, go through life and like people please, you feel sometimes that, your truth has been compromised. And, honesty is always the best policy. You're never going to make everybody happy, unless you lie to yourself or to others. And honesty is the best policy. Okay. Well, folks, I think that's about all I have for the week. If you would like a more in-depth personal reading, I'd love to sit down with you. And, until then, until next week, you have a blessed week. Bye-bye.